So I'll start with one of these shutter blades, and I've got these on a block of hard foam. You could use anything you like really. You could do this on a newspaper. Just need to be on something that is fairly stiff so that you don't dent the blade, and fairly soft so that it doesn't damage the blade. This works very well. You can see I'm using one cotton bud to hold the blade down, and I'm using the other one to polish it. And as you polish the blade with your metal polish, you'll feel and hear the action change as any roughness is polished away. That looks good. And now I'll just clean that blade off. I need to get rid of all the polish, of course. So I'll clean that off with a bit of naphtha. Both sides, of course. And there's the blade. It's clean and shiny. Those marks that were on there, those corrosion marks, from both surfaces, they're gone. That blade's as good as the day it was made. So I've got to do my 6 blades in the same fashion, and then they'll be fit to assemble to the shutter again. So I'll just work my way through these and bring you back once we're ready to move on to the next stage. I'll just put a little bit of graphite powder in here. And just work that blade actuating ring backwards and forwards. Just unhook that from there. We do the same from the top as well. Work that in backwards and forwards. I'm going to blow the excess out. Well, as I was reviewing my videos to see how everything had gone and to make sure I had everything I needed, and to cut them into suitable lengths and all the rest of it, I discovered that I actually had a section that hadn't recorded at all. At the time, I thought the video camera had just stopped, and I didn't know why. Most likely the video camera had never started, so there was a whole section completely missing. Now it has to be said that this camera gave me the runaround, no end. There was no end of problems I had with it. Things that didn't go as I'd planned, and things that just puzzled me. So it's a bit rough as an instructional video. But I did get the camera to go in the end, as you'll find out if you watch enough of it. So what I've got here is not the original shutter at all. That's long since been dealt to. This is almost the same shutter from a Vito BL that I happen to have around, and it's called the same. It's got the same name on it, the shutter, but it's not exactly identical. So I'll use this one to show you how this goes together. I've got this here, the shutter is cocked. I've moved the blade actuating ring down to the blade's open position, and I can put the blades in place. Now the blades I've got for this shutter are a bit unhappy. They're a bit marked and stained, and one of them's a bit rusty, but I'll assemble the shutter regardless. We'll get this thing sorted out. If I can just get the blades on the right way round, we'll be in business. So the trick is knowing where to start, and I think I'll start right here, placing the blades. Now there are 6 blades, there are only 5 positions, which means that the 6th blade gets laid in the same position as the first blade, right over the top of it. Now that was a reasonably common practice for cameras with an interchangeable lens. Getting this one in is tricky. I've got to get the tab on the blade, here you bugger. Got to get this tab here in under that slot there. So it's always a bit awkward. Of course I've got to do it without disturbing the other blade. See if I can get onto this a bit better. Here it is. So, as I said, the shutter's not exactly identical, but for practical purposes, this part's the same, and you'd be hard pressed to notice any differences. And this is the last blade, which goes in the position the first blade would have gone in, right there. Now I'll put the back on here, or what would serve as the shutter case in a fairly conventional shutter. So I've got the little tab off here that I'll use to cock it so that the shaft will pass through the hole here. See if I can get this lowered into place. I might need to close that slightly so those blades are a little bit closed. That'll do. If I go any further, it'll probably just want to pop into position and then the blades will fly away. Let's get this in position. Oh, there are 2 slots in the case there. I was busy trying to lower my shutter release lever down into the wrong one. Well, that looks like that's in, and I can put the screws in place that hold it. Now there were a total of 4 screws, some from the back of the case, I'll see if I can get 2 in place, and that'll hold it while I check everything. So I've got 1 in there where you can't see a thing because it's at the wrong end for you. I'll put 1 in here. We'll flip this over and put the blade actuating ring back to the closed position. There you are, the blades are closed. And you can't see that one of those blades is ugly. You can when you look at it from the back, but then people aren't going to be looking at it from the back. That was rusty, that blade, and it's because something had got onto the blades of the shutter. Right, so that's in. I'll just put this little tab on the back here while I've got the opportunity. It'll stop this coming apart on me. And that is the stage I had the shutter up at the beginning of the next section of video. So basically what I'd done was I'd got the blades back in place after I'd cleaned them, and we're ready to move on from this stage. So this actually looks quite good now. I'm quite impressed with the look of those shutter blades. They're a lot neater than I expected them to be. And there you are, it even opens and shuts. So that's it, that was getting the shutter blades back in place. And in the next video we'll pick up with me somewhat puzzled as to what had happened with the video camera previously. And of course I'll be putting all the other components back into the shutter, which is very much the same as this one. Well, the video camera just stopped then just to annoy me. I don't know why. So the retaining ring for this lever, retaining plate, let's get that in position. And there's a spring of course in there too, so I'll just give these pieces a quick wipe. This is quite clean as it happens. And this must go, yeah, there's two screw holes, it must go that way. There and there. Right, so plain screw here, and this one here had the bracket and the longest screw. It's the bracket, the spring, the longest screw, and the smaller screw presumably went here. I don't know why the camera stopped before. I suspect the battery had gone dead flat, but I'm not 100% sure of that. This spring, the detent, that goes on there. Now I can see that that's going to be fun to get into place. It's got quite a pronounced detent to it. Fair bit of tension. Let's see if I can get that in position. Yeah, that fits in there like that. That was quite a bit of tension on that spring. That took a bit of pushing to get that on there. It's not seated as well as I'd like here. Let's press it down a bit more. That's a bit better. Did that slide on there? Perhaps it did. No. Okay. Let's get that screw in there. This problem with screws are big heavy heads on them. They're very difficult to get to stand up so that you can stand them up in the hole and do them up. They do not want to perch where you want them to be. That's better, let's try that. That seems to work. That seems to work. Does that lever have the appropriate detent? It does. If anything, it's a bit tight there. I'll put a little bit of molybdenum paste on the business end of that where it's running on that detent spring. That's fine. So from the back of the shutter I need to put back that cocking piece here, which means taking that screw back out of there. Taking that little bracket off again. I'm just going to wipe the centre of this with some molybdenum paste. That's sat on there like that. And it would drive the other thing. Is this cocked or uncocked? It's uncocked. So I'm fairly sure this sat on here like this. That looks right. Of course I'll have to consult earlier pictures and see if it is right. That looks very good. No, that looks spot on to me. That's good. I won't solder my wires back on directly. I'll just put those to one side. I don't need them to be in place. I can do them later. What to put on first? Flash connections, I think. Now, let's cock and fire the shutter. Let's first cock it. Oh, I want that open on B, that's better. If I slow it down enough it stays open on B. Now moving contact should be there. I want that in the position where it will open. That'll do me. I've got to get the spring behind it. It's always entertaining to get that spring to tuck down in place. That's better, it is. The static contact goes down in here. There's a hole in the plate that that tube feeds down into. Sits down like that, and the top of it sits over the top of this moving contact. Then that little barrel shaped standoff goes there. And these two pieces. This is the lever that operates the flash connection, and here's the brass shoulder screw that runs through it, and through that little barrel shaped piece And all I need to do is line up the holes through 3 components with the hole in the plate below them, just like that. Feed the screw in and do the screw up. That's the theory. Making sure that this is loose around the shoulder of the screw, it is. So that when the shutter is released, let's just cock the shutter and release it. When the shutter is released, I'll just do this slowly. You see that the flash contact makes there as the blades reach fully open, and then opens again as the blades close. So the flash contact is all in position. What do I want to do? I think it would be a good idea at this stage to do what? My retard gear train. This needs to be cleaned. There are 2 options. You can work it in a little jar of naphtha, work it backwards and forwards, that'll do it. Or I'm going to do that, the same thing, except I'm going to put it in a little jar of naphtha and then put the little jar of naphtha into my ultrasonic cleaner and let the ultrasonic cleaner work wonders on it. And I'll do the same for my self timer or delay action at the same time. I'll do both speed trains together. That'll save me some time.